Something knocked on my window at 3 a.m., but I live on the 9th floor. I've lived in the same apartment building for 7 years, on the 9th floor of a tall, gray block. Nothing unusual ever happens here. It's the kind of place where people keep to themselves, curtains stay shut, and neighbors pretend they don't hear each other through the thin walls. But last month, something changed. It started with the knocking. The first time, I was half asleep, my phone glowing on the nightstand. A soft tap 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 came from the window. I thought it was a dream at first. But then it came again, louder. I sat up, confused, because my window opens onto nothing but open air. There's no balcony, no ledge, and definitely no way for anyone to be standing outside on the 9th floor. I forced myself to look. The glass was fogged from the cold, but when I wiped it with my sleeve, I saw something. A handprint. Pressed flat against the outside of the glass. The print lingered for hours, even though it was freezing outside. The next night, it happened again. This time, I didn't go near the window. I lay frozen in bed while the tap 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 echoed like a heartbeat. When it finally stopped, I told myself it had to be the building settling, or maybe birds. Anything but what I thought it was. But then I saw the handprint again in the morning. Bigger than before. After a week of this, I borrowed my neighbor's ladder and climbed up to check the outside of the window. There was nothing there. No ledge, no cracks, no way anyone could be climbing up that high. But when I leaned closer, I noticed something etched faintly into the glass, like letters scratched with a fingernail. It said, "Let me in." Now, every night at 3 a.m., the knocking comes. I don't dare look anymore, but I can hear the glass rattling, like something is pressing harder and harder, desperate to get inside. Last night was the worst. At exactly 3 o'clock, the knocking started. Slow. Heavy. Then a voice whispered my name, muffled through the glass. But here's the thing, I live alone. No one knows which window is mine. And when I finally looked this morning, the handprint wasn't just on the glass. It was on the inside. The handprint inside the glass. I didn't sleep the night I found the handprint inside the glass. I sat in my kitchen with every light on, gripping a cup of cold coffee like it could protect me. The silence in my apartment felt too heavy, too deliberate. It was the kind of silence that presses against your ears until you hear your own heartbeat too loud. By dawn, I convinced myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe I had touched the glass myself without realizing it. Maybe the condensation warped it, making it look like a handprint from the inside. Anything was better than admitting what I knew deep down, something had been in my apartment. The building's history. That morning, I finally asked my neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, if she'd ever heard knocking at night. She's lived here longer than anyone. At first, she just shook her head, too quickly, like she didn't want to talk about it. But when I pressed her, she lowered her voice. "You should move," she whispered. "Before it notices you." I asked her what it was, but she only muttered something about the man who fell. When I searched the building's records later, I found it. Back in the 1970s, when the complex was still new, a construction worker had fallen from the 9th floor. His body hit the pavement in front of what is now my apartment. Some people said he'd slipped, others swore he was pushed. Either way, he never left. The scratching. That night, I taped black trash bags over the window, trying to block out everything. But the knocking came anyway. Louder, sharper, until the whole pane rattled in its frame. Then it changed. It wasn't knocking anymore. It was scratching. The sound of nails dragging down glass, slow and deliberate. I lay in bed, clutching my phone, too afraid to move. Then, at exactly 3:14 a.m., the scratching stopped. A pause stretched so long I thought maybe it was over. Then, from the other side of the room, I heard it. Tap tap tap. From my closet door. The closet. I didn't sleep. I didn't even breathe. I just stared at the closet, waiting for the door to creak open. But nothing happened. When daylight finally came, I forced myself to check. The closet was empty, clothes, shoes, boxes of junk. Nothing inside. But when I reached for a sweater, my stomach dropped. There, on the inside of the door, was another handprint. The voice. For the next 3 nights, it followed the same pattern. The knocking on the window at 3 a.m. The scratching at 3:07. The pause. Then the tapping on the closet door at 3:14. By the 4th night, I couldn't take it anymore. I shouted at it. "What do you want?" The apartment went silent. And then, in the faintest, coldest whisper, it answered from the closet. "To come in." The decision. I don't know what to do. I can't move, I don't have the money. I can't sleep, every night is the same torture. The knocking. The scratching. The whisper. But last night, it changed again. The knocking didn't stop at the window. It spread. To the walls. To the floor. To the ceiling. Dozens of fists pounding all around me, shaking the room, until I thought the building would collapse. And over it all, the whisper. "Let me in. Let me in. Let me in." This morning, when I peeled the trash bags off the window, the words were there again. Scratched deep this time, letters jagged and desperate. Tonight. The night I almost opened the window. The message carved into the glass, tonight, haunted me the whole day. I couldn't eat, couldn't think, couldn't focus on anything else. Every shadow felt like it was watching me. Every creak in the building made my skin crawl. I knew what it meant. It wasn't going to wait anymore. Preparing for the night. I spent the afternoon preparing like a lunatic. I bought more salt, scattered thick lines across every doorway, every window. I set up 3 brass bells, one by the bed, one on the kitchen counter, one in the closet. I even pulled a heavy chair in front of the window, like that could stop whatever was outside. When 3 a.m. came, I was sitting on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, flashlight ready, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The knocking came right on schedule. Tap. 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 But this time, it didn't stop after a few minutes. It grew louder, sharper, until the whole window trembled in its frame. The glass groaned like it was ready to shatter. Then came the scratching. The name. I squeezed the brass bell until my knuckles whitened, waiting for the closet taps. But instead, a voice hissed through the glass. Not muffled anymore. Clear. It spoke my name. Not whispered, not tentative. It said it like it knew me. Like it had been saying it for years. I dropped the bell in shock. It hit the floor with a dull clang. The sound made the knocking stop. The silence lasted 3 seconds. Then, from the closet. Tap. 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 The closet door. I froze, staring at the door. The air grew heavy, cold enough that my breath fogged in front of me. The taps turned into a long, slow scratch, dragging from the top of the door to the bottom. And then the knob turned. I backed away, nearly tripping over the bed, fumbling for the bell. I rang it so hard it echoed through the apartment. The scratching stopped. The knob stilled. But a voice seeped through the wood, low and rasping. "If you won't let me in there, let me in here." The window shattered. The hand. Glass exploded inward, scattering across the floor like ice. I shielded my face, cutting my arms on the shards. And then I saw it, the hand. Pale gray, too long, the fingers bent backward at impossible angles. It gripped the window frame, pulling the rest of its body through the broken glass. I rang the bell again, desperate, and the thing shrieked. A sound so piercing it made the walls shake. It yanked back, retreating into the night. The fog outside swallowed it whole. I stood there, shaking, glass crunching under my feet, staring at the empty window. It hadn't gotten in. Not yet. The aftermath. The landlord wasn't happy when I told him about the window. I lied and said a bird must have hit it. He didn't believe me, but he boarded it up anyway. For a few nights, it was quiet. No knocking. No scratching. No voices. I thought maybe I had one. But then, 3 nights later, I woke to something worse. The photograph. My phone was buzzing. A notification. I grabbed it, still half asleep. Someone had sent me a photo. No number. No contact. Just unknown. The picture was of me. Asleep in my bed. Taken from the closet. To be continued. The face in the photograph. When I saw the picture on my phone, my heart dropped into my stomach. It wasn't just a blurry shadow or some reflection. No. The photo was crystal clear. The angle was wrong, slightly tilted, like someone had crouched low in my closet, pulled the door just an inch open, and taken the shot. And in the corner of the picture, in the reflection of the dark window behind me, there was a face. Gray. Sunken. Eyes too wide, glowing faintly white. Its mouth was open, stretched into something between a scream and a grin. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I couldn't. Looking for answers. By morning, I decided I needed to know what the hell was going on. If this thing had a reason for choosing me, I had to find it. I went to the library first. The building I lived in wasn't new, it had been around since the 1940s. Old records showed it used to be worker housing for a construction company that built the nearby factories. Buried in a faded newspaper clipping from 1951, I found it. Local worker dies in tragic fall. A man named Elias Moore fell from the scaffolding while working on the very building I live in. Witnesses claimed he didn't just fall, he jumped. He had been muttering for weeks about voices in the walls, shadows that followed him home, something tapping on his windows at night. His co-workers thought he'd gone mad. The article ended coldly, he leaves no family behind. No funeral notice. No obituary. Nothing. Like he'd been erased. The landlord. I confronted my landlord. I told him straight out, what happened in this building? Who died here? He looked at me for a long moment, his face hard. Then he sighed. You're not the first tenant in that unit to complain. My stomach flipped. People hear knocking, scratching, voices. Always around 3 in the morning. Some say it's Elias. He worked here before the place even opened. They say when he fell, he landed right in front of your window. Broke his neck. Why didn't you warn me? I snapped. Because nobody ever stays long enough for it to matter. The bells don't work anymore. That night, I set up everything, salt, candles, all 3 bells. But something was different. At 3 a.m., the knocking began, steady and loud. I rang the bell, and it laughed. A wet, rasping chuckle that made my blood run cold. Little toys won't save you, it whispered. The closet door burst open. Not slowly, not with a creak. It slammed wide like something had kicked it. And there he was. The first real sight. Elias, or what was left of him. He stood half in shadow, hunched, neck twisted at a sick angle. His arms were too long, fingers brushing the floor. His jaw hung open as if forever stuck in the moment of impact. But the eyes burned white, drilling into me. I tried to scream but nothing came out. He stepped forward, dragging one foot like it was broken. Every movement made a crunching sound, bones grinding. You see me now, he rasped. You sleep in my grave. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over the bed. My only thought was get out. The escape. I bolted from the apartment barefoot, glass and salt crunching under my feet. Down the hall, down the stairs, not stopping until I hit the street. When I finally looked back at my window, I saw him. Pressed against the glass from the inside. His twisted face smiling down at me. The hotel. I checked into a hotel that night. For the first time in weeks, I thought I might actually be safe. No closet, no window facing the courtyard. Just a sterile, bland room. But at exactly 3 a.m., the phone in my hotel room rang. I answered it with a shaking hand. There was no sound at first. Then, tap. 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 And the voice, faint but clear. No matter where you go. I'll find you. To be continued. The apartment isn't empty anymore. I haven't slept in 3 nights. Not really. I just lie there in the dark, waiting for the inevitable tap tap tap. It always comes. But last night, something changed. Around 2:45 a.m., before the usual knocking time, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, dragging steps, like someone was barefoot, shuffling along the worn linoleum. At first, I thought it was just a neighbor, maybe an insomniac or someone getting home late. But the sound stopped right outside my door. And then the doorknob started to turn. Not fast. Not like someone trying to break in. Just a slow, deliberate twist. Like whoever it was wanted me to know they could come in whenever they wanted. I held my breath. The knob turned halfway, then stopped. Silence. Then, from inside my apartment, a soft tap tap tap. Not from the window this time. From the bathroom mirror. I froze, staring at the dark crack under my bathroom door. The tapping was faint but rhythmic, like fingers against glass. I couldn't make myself move, couldn't bring myself to open that door. Instead, I waited until morning. When I finally gathered the courage to go in, the mirror was fogged, as though someone had taken a hot shower. But I hadn't used it since the day before. And on the glass, written in long streaks like a finger had traced through the condensation, were the words. You look like me. I don't know what that means. But I've been seeing things in my reflection lately. When I brush my teeth, sometimes my reflection doesn't move in sync. It lags behind, just for a second. Or worse, it smiles when I'm not. Last night, I covered the mirror with a sheet. It didn't help. At 3 a.m., the sheet rippled, like something was moving behind it. Then I heard my own voice whisper my name, muffled, as if from underwater. I didn't answer. But the whisper came again, louder. Let me out. Now I'm not sure what's worse, the knocking at the window or the thing in the mirror. Because today, when I left for work, I swear I saw my reflection wave goodbye. But my hand never moved. The thing wearing my face. I tried not to go home last night. I stayed at a friend's place, crashed on his couch, even left the lights on while we watched bad horror movies to distract me. But around midnight, my phone started buzzing. Unknown number. No caller ID. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. Every 5 minutes. Until finally, I muted it and shoved it under a pillow. But at 2:59 a.m., just as I was drifting off, I heard it vibrating on the table. Against my better judgment, I looked. One new message. A picture. It was me. Standing in my apartment. Grinning. I panicked, woke my friend, tried to explain. He thought it was some kind of sick prank, maybe that someone had hacked my phone. He insisted on driving me back to my place to check. Bad idea. When we got to my building, the hallway lights were flickering. My door was wide open. I know for a fact I locked it. Inside, everything was quiet. Too quiet. My friend went first, checking the living room, the kitchen. He called out for anyone to show themselves. Nothing. And then I heard it again. Tap tap tap. From the bathroom. The sheet I had thrown over the mirror was gone. The glass was bare, and there I was, except it wasn't me. My reflection was smiling wide, too wide, lips stretched unnaturally across its face. My friend cursed under his breath, asking what the hell was wrong with my mirror. Then it moved. Not me, the reflection. It stepped forward, pressing its palms against the glass from the inside. My reflection opened its mouth and in my exact voice said, "He doesn't belong here." But I do. Before I could react, the mirror cracked. A thin spiderweb fracture spread across it, but instead of breaking outward, it bulged inward, like it was pulling something through. My friend grabbed me by the arm and yelled that we needed to leave. But as we backed away, the reflection slammed its fists against the glass, harder, harder, until shards started falling onto the sink. We ran. I don't even remember locking the door. Back at my friend's place, I tried to calm down. He kept saying it had to be some kind of hallucination, maybe sleep deprivation. But when I went to the bathroom to splash water on my face, I froze. Because in his mirror, not mine, my reflection wasn't there at all. Just empty glass. And then, slowly, something leaned into frame. Something with my face, but darker, hollow-eyed, grinning like it had finally found me again. It raised its hand and tapped on the inside of the mirror. Tap tap tap. I don't know how long I can keep running. I think it wants me. I think it wants to take my place. And the worst part? Sometimes, when I blink, I'm not sure I'm the one in control anymore.